In NASCAR's 75-year history, there have been many numbers come and go. On any given weekend, you will see 36 to 40 unique numbers on the track, and each of those numbers has a story to tell. Hi, I'm your host Matt, and this is NASCAR Number History presented by Dogleg Media. In this series, we look to tell the stories of each of those numbers, who won with the number first, who found victory lane the most, and every other driver to grab a trophy in the number. We go in chronological order, and today we explore every number in the 30s. Strap in folks, this is shaping up to be a long one. We have never done 10 numbers in one video before. If you missed numbers 1 through 29, the number history playlist will be linked below. But with that out of the way, let's dive into some more NASCAR number history. The number 30's history could have been totally different had Dale Earnhardt never passed away at the end of the 2001 Daytona 500. Kevin Harvick's original number was supposed to be 30, but after Earnhardt passed, Richard Childress would put Kevin in the 29 to fill the void left by the tragic passing. It's interesting to speculate what ifs, but now let's look at what actually happened. The number 30 has one total win. There are quite a few numbers with only one or fewer wins in the 30s. That's why we're doing all of them in one video. This goes without saying, but there's only one total winner in the 30. It's competed in 1,063 races with a 0.1 win percentage. The only winner would be Speedy Thompson in 1955 at Martinsville. Speedy would win 20 total times in the Cup Series and would only drive the number 30 one time, getting the win in the number. It's wild that Speedy Thompson only contributed to one of the 1,063 starts and got the number's only win. The first to drive the number would be Howard Elder in the second ever NASCAR race in 1949 at Daytona Beach. Elder would finish 16th in a 28-car field. Now let's look at some notable drivers to drive the number 30, starting off with Ned Jarrett. Jarrett would make 2 starts in the number in 1955. The same season, Speedy would get the number's only win. Kel Yarborough would make 3 starts in the 30 for Bob Weatherly, but mechanical issues would occur in all 3, taking him out of contention early on. But this is one of those wild things I would have never known if I didn't do this series, but Dale Earnhardt would make his second career start in the Ballard Racing number 30. This would be his only start in the number. Michael Waltrip would make 265 starts in the 30, driving for Bahari Racing from 1987 to 1995, driving full-time in the number. Waltrip would never win in the number, but he did come close in 1988 at Pocono, finishing second. Johnny Benson would get his Cup Series start in the number, taking over the seat in 1996 for a departing Michael Waltrip. He would pilot the 30 for 2 seasons, with a best career finish of 5th. Jeff Green, the 2000 Xfinity Series champion, would be the driver to get the fabled Kevin Harvick 30 ride in 2001, making 7 starts that season. Green would go full-time in the number in 2002, and would come close to victory at New Hampshire, finishing second. He would make 11 starts in 2003 before moving to DEI to finish the season in the 1 car, in essentially a driver swap with Steve Park, who would finish the 2003 season in the number. And then to the current driver. There isn't currently a driver in the number 30 car. The last time the number ran in the Cup Series was 2016, with Gray Gaulding. With the number only having 1 win, and not being ran for 7 years, do you think we will see the 30 car reach victory lane and break a now 68-year winless drought? Let me know. And now let's move on to the number 31. The 31 has 8 total wins with 3 different drivers. It's competed in 1,231 races with a 0.6 win percentage. The first to win in the number would be Robby Gordon. For a number that competed in NASCAR's very first race in 1949 at Charlotte, for it to get its first win ever 52 years later is crazy. Gordon would get his first career win in the number's first win. It would come at the season-ending race at New Hampshire. New Hampshire became the season-ending race after the September 11th terror attacks would cause NASCAR to postpone that weekend's race. Gordon would collect all 3 of his Cup Series wins in the number 31. The most wins belongs to Jeff Burton, and he owns half of the number's wins with 4. Burton would drive the Richard Childress 31 from 2005 to 2013. He would get his start at RCR in the 30, running a partial schedule in the number in 2004. Burton's last win in the number would come in 2008 at Charlotte. Burton would win 21 total times in the Cup Series and would be named to NASCAR's 75 Greatest Driver list in 2023. And the last driver to win in the number would be Rocket Man Ryan Newman. Newman would take over the RCR 31 in 2014 after Jeff Burton would retire. While Newman didn't win in the number until 2017, he would take the number to the very first Championship 4 in 2014 on the back of consistent results throughout the season. His only win in the number would come in 2017 at Phoenix, being Newman's final career win, and it is currently the last time the 31 has gone to victory lane. Newman was named to NASCAR's 75 Greatest Drivers list in 2023, and is now making select starts after being retired for a year, for Rick Ware Racing in a number to be discussed later. And the current driver of the 31 is Justin Haley, and he is just one of 3 current full-time drivers of numbers 30 through 39. Haley is in his second full-time season in the number with Dogleg Racing. While he hasn't won yet, Dogleg is showing promise as only a second-year Cup team, and Justin has 3 top 5s already in the number. I think Justin has the talent and the equipment to make the 31 a winner again, and it could come sooner than later. We will have to wait and see, but at least the 31 has a full-time driver, which can't be said for many of today's numbers, including this next one. And that would be the number 32. The 32 has 2 total wins, with only 1 winner. It's raced in 1,000 races exactly, with a 0.2 win percentage. The first and only winner would be Ricky Craven. Craven would drive the 32 for PPI Motorsports from 2001 to 2004, and would get his and the number's first win in 2001 at Martinsville. The 32 and Craven would be the winners of the closest finish in NASCAR history in 2003 at Darlington. In a battle with 2004 Cup Series champion Kurt Busch, the two would beat and bang all the way down the front stretch, with Craven winning by 2 1,000ths of a second. It is certainly an iconic moment in NASCAR history, and it's cool that it belongs to a number with not very much other positive history to go with it. Craven would get both of his career wins in the 32, and that win at Darlington would be the last time the number would go to victory lane. And now let's look at some other drivers, starting with Jim Rathman, who would be the very first driver to pilot the 32 in NASCAR's first ever season and the 4th ever race in 1949 at Langhorne Speedway. Junior Johnson would make one start in the 32 for Smokey Yunick in 1956 at Darlington, finishing 15th. And then there's 1992 champion Alan Kulwicki. He would get his first ever Cup Series starts in the 32, back in 1985 for Terry Motorsports. And then the last to pilot the 32 would be Corey LaJoie back in 2020 for Go Fast Racing. LaJoie would run 2 full-time seasons in the number, and the final start for the number would be the season finale at Phoenix. I would love to forget about this in the 32, but it still haunts me to this day. What were they thinking with this paint scheme? With the number not being on the track for 3 years, when will we see the 20-year drought come to an end for the number? Now let's move on to the 33. And the 33 is by far the most successful number in this stretch of numbers, and one driver is to credit for the majority of its success. Let's dive into the stats. The 33 has 23 total wins with 4 different drivers. It's competed in 1,164 races with a 2% winning percentage. The first to win would be Lou Figueroa in 1951 at Gardena. Lou only won 1 race in his 17-race career, as he would get the 33 its first ever win. The most wins, though, definitely belongs to Harry Gant. Gant would be by far the most successful driver in any number in the 30s, as he would win 18 times in his iconic Skull 33 machine. He would spend time in the number from 1981 to 1994 with 3 different teams. Gant would win the 1984 and 1991 Southern 500 as his 2 crown jewel victories in the number. Gant would get all of his Cup Series wins in the number. He would be named to NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers list and is the king of the 30s. And I won't forget you this time, Joe. While I missed his win in the 25, I won't miss this one in the 33. Joe Nemechek would get 1 win in the 33 car in 2001 at Rockingham. Front Row Joe would compete in 2 full-time seasons in the 33 for Andy Petrie in 2000 and 2001. And then the last driver to take the 33 to victory lane would be Clint Bowyer in 2011 at the Fall Talladega race. Bowyer would win 3 races in the number, his first coming at New Hampshire and then winning twice at Talladega. Bowyer would be the unfortunate second-place finisher to the second closest NASCAR race in history, at the Spring Talladega race in 2011. While Bowyer would get redemption in the fall to grab the win, he would be bested by Jimmy Johnson in a crazy 3-way photo finish at the line, losing by 2 1,000ths of a second. I know, that's the same margin of victory as Ricky Craven's Darlington win in 2003. I don't know how they differentiate them. If you do know, let me know in the comments. The last full-time driver of the 33 would be Jeffrey Earnhardt. Although he would have Boris Said fill in for the road course events, this would come in 2017 for Circle Sport. And while I believe wearing green on race day is bad luck, his Hulu scheme right here was honestly pretty cool. The last to drive the 33 would be Xfinity Series up-and-comer Austin Hill, driving for Richard Childress in 2022 at Michigan. Will Richard Childress bring the 33 back into the fold for Austin Hill as a 3rd entry after this season? With Kyle Busch being at the team and bringing success back to Welcome, North Carolina, it's a very real possibility. If so, we may see the 33 back in victory lane pretty soon. And now we move on to the 34. And the 34 is actually the next to have a current full-time driver. And for the only time in the 30s, that driver is the last to win in the number as well. There is some history with this one, so let's look at the stats. The 34 has 5 total wins, with 5 different drivers. It's competed in 1,162 races and counting, with a 0.4 win percentage. Well. We all thought the 30s was our first desolate wasteland set of numbers. While it is certainly lighter in the win column than our first 3 sets of 10, the 34 lays claim to the first ever Cup Series win, with Jim Roper winning at Charlotte in 1949. Roper would only make 2 Cup Series starts, and winning the first ever Cup Series race is a big bright spot for the number 34. Another historic win belongs to the 34. This time it would be Wendell Scott who made history with the number, becoming the first African American to win in the Cup Series. Scott would win in 1964 at Jacksonville, but he wasn't declared the winner at the racetrack. Second place finisher Buck Baker would be. Race officials discovered 2 hours later that Scott had not only won, but was 2 laps in front of the rest of the field. NASCAR would award Scott with the win afterward, but his family didn't receive the trophy he had rightfully won until 2021, nearly 58 years after the race. Scott's Cup Series career was constantly littered with racial prejudice, with his rise in the Cup Series coming during the Civil Rights Movement. He would receive death threats at many tracks and was even poisoned before a race at Dover. Scott was posthumously inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2015 for his trailblazing career. And then David Ragan, he would break a 49-year winless drought for the number with his win at Talladega in 2013. Ragan would only get 1 win in the number, but this would be the first win for Front Row Motorsports in the Cup Series. And then of course Chris Buescher, he would get his first career win in the number during his rookie season at Pocono. This was definitely a weird way to win a race, by the way. We have heard of rain-shortened wins, but this was a fog-shortened one. A dense fog rolled in, impeding visibility, with rookie Chris Buescher being in the right place at the right time to score his first career win, being his only win in the number. And then we get to the last win, Michael McDowell. And we all remember this one. McDowell would take the Front Row Motorsports 34 car to victory lane in the Daytona 500 in 2021. This is the last win for the 34 currently, and it came with a full-time driver, Michael McDowell, who's in the seat right now. Michael has shown consistency in less than favorable equipment, and has been in position to win, even at non-superspeedway events. I could very well see McDowell picking up another win in the number, but his contract is up at the end of the 2023 season. Rumors are swirling that he could end up at Stewart-Haas in the 10 car, which would be a pretty big move for him. What do you all think happens with McDowell? And then we get to the 35. And this is one of 2 winless numbers in the 30s, and it's the first ever for the series as well. So I don't really know what to do here. I guess let's talk about some stats and some notable drivers as well. The 35 has competed in 322 total races in the Cup Series, with the first to drive it being Glenn Dunaway. He would race it in the second ever NASCAR race in 1949 at Daytona Beach. Mel Larson would drive it as well, and Mel is the only driver to ever get a pole position for the number, coming in 1960 at Phoenix. And then there's Benny Parsons. Parsons would compete 1 full season in the number for Hendrick Motorsports in 1987, where he would finish second 3 times that year. Oh so close to bringing the 35 its first win. And then Darrell Waltrip would make 15 starts in the number as well in 1998 for Tyler Jet Motorsports, with a best finish of 13th. The last to drive the 35 would be David Gilliland in 2016 at Daytona. He would pilot the 35 for 2 races in 2016, both at super speedways, Talladega and Daytona. With the number being vacant since 2016, who will bring the number back to the track, and will we ever see the 35 get a win? Remember when I said the 35 was one of 2 numbers to be winless in the 30s? Well, here's the second one. The 36 has never won a race either, and for some reason this surprised me. I guess now that I'm an expert on winless numbers, let's do it all over again. The 36 has competed in 751 races, with Jimmy Thompson being the first to ever drive the number, in NASCAR's first ever Cup Series race at 1949 at Charlotte. He would come home 10th in a field of 33 cars. Ernie Irvan would finish out his NASCAR career in the MB2 Motorsports 36 machine, driving it from 1998 to 1999. Irvan would get a pole in his time in the number, coming in 1998 at Martinsville. And then Kenny Schrader, he would drive the 36 after Ernie Irvan would retire at MB2 and would drive from 2000 to 2002. Despite having decent sponsorship from M&M's, Schrader was never able to secure a top 5 in his time in the ride, although his M&M scheme is still one of my favorites from the sponsor. And then there's Matt Tifft. Tifft would be the last full-time driver of the 36, when he would have his rookie season in 2019. Tifft would have his rookie season and driving career cut short after he would suffer a seizure in his team hauler prior to the fall Martinsville race. Tifft wouldn't commit to a full-time season post-2019 as he wanted to focus on his health. He would become a co-owner of Cup Team Live Fast, where they would run a pretty groovy paint scheme at Darlington in 2023, featuring the Daily Downforce. And currently at the time of this video, the last to drive the 36 was Todd Gilliland. This ride is split, however, between him and Zane Smith for Front Row Motorsports. While I believe that Gilliland has proven he is a talented driver and should stay in his ride in the 38, and any Cup experience they want Zane to get should come in the 36, I guess sponsorship talks, and that's why I'm doing a YouTube video on this and not being a team owner. Could Front Row take the 36 full-time next year? It doesn't seem likely with the charter pricing currently, and any open charters would almost certainly go to a larger team wanting to expand like 2311, RCR, or even potentially Junior Motorsports. And then we move on to the number 37. The 37 has one win with one driver. It narrowly escaped the clinches of winless, but it has been a long time since its only win. It's competed in 667 total races with a 0.1 win percentage. Now let's take a look at the only winner of the number 37's history, Bobby Isaac. The 1970 champion and Hall of Famer Bobby Isaac would be the only driver to ever take the number 37 to victory lane. Driving for K&K Insurance Racing, he would make 7 starts in the number between 1967 and 1968, winning in his 7th and final start in the number. Isaac was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2016. And now let's take a look at some of the other drivers of the number 37, starting with Frank Smith. Smith would be the first to drive the 37 in the Cup Series, doing so in the very first ever race in 1949 at Charlotte. He would finish 21st in that one. And then there's Mark Martin. The 2017 Hall of Fame inductee would make 1 start in the 37 for Rogers Racing in 1982. And then there's Chris Buescher. Buescher would have 3 full-time seasons, driving the JTG Doherty 37 car from 2017 to 2019. He would collect 2 top 5s in that time. And now we move on to the last to drive the number, Ryan Preece. Preece would be the last driver to drive the 37 car, where he would be the full-time driver for the number in 2020 and 2021. JTG went down to a 1-car operation after the 2021 season, and the number hasn't seen the track since. When will we see the current 55-year winless drought come to an end for this number? And then we get to the penultimate number, the number 38. The 38 has 7 total wins with 4 different drivers. It's competed in 958 total races with a 0.7 win percentage. The driver with the first win is also the driver with the most wins, Gwen Staley. Staley would collect all of his wins in the number in 1957, with the first for the number coming that season at Myrtle Beach. Staley would win 3 total times in the number, which would be every win in his career as well. Now let's look at some other winners, starting off with Bob Welborn. Welborn would win the very next season in the number, collecting 1 win, in 1958 at Fayetteville. Welborn would win 9 times in the Cup Series. He would, however, be a 3-time NASCAR Convertible Series champion, winning 3 in a row from 1956 to 1958. Welborn would also be the pole sitter for the very first ever Daytona 500 in 1959. With his 19 wins in the Convertible Series and 9 in the Cup Series, Welborn was named to NASCAR's 50 Greatest Driver list. And then there's Ned Jarrett. We discussed Ned Jarrett for his Hall of Fame career in the 11 car. He would win 49 of his 50 wins in the 11, but his other lone win came in the 38 machine. Jarrett would only make 9 starts in his self-owned 38 car between 1959 and 1960, and would win in his very last start in the number at the 1968 Columbia race. Jarrett is the only Hall of Famer to win in the 38, being inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2011. The last driver to take the 38 to victory lane would be Elliott Sadler. Sadler would win 2 times driving for Robert Yates in the 38 Ford. Both of his victories would come in 2004, the first at Texas and the last for the number coming at Fontana. And this is a 3rd and final number in the 30s to have a current full-time driver. Todd Gilliland currently pilots the 38 for Front Row Motorsports. While Gilliland hasn't won yet in the number, he gets more out of the equipment than is given to him. He is in his 2nd full-time season with the number and has 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s. While he isn't in the best equipment, it wouldn't be the craziest thing if he was able to pull off a surprise win at a super speedway or even a road course. It has been nearly 20 years since the 38 last saw victory lane. Will we see a young Todd Gilliland break that drought? And we finally made it. This was a lot more than I expected it to be. The 30s at first glance look so innocent, like a barren wasteland with a few bright spots. There is a lot more here than I anticipated, but we roll on and have made it to the end. Let's wrap this thing up. The 39 has 4 total wins with only 1 driver. It's competed in 426 total races with a 0.9 win percentage. The only winner would be Ryan Newman. He's the only driver to ever take the 39 to victory lane. The first win for the number would come in 2010 at Phoenix, and the last win for the number would come in 2013 at the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis. Newman would drive the 39 for Stewart-Haas Racing from 2009 to 2013 and would be Tony Stewart's original partner in crime for his newly owned team. Not only is Newman the only winner in the number's history, but he is responsible for 43% of the number's total starts with 180. Newman was also the last driver to pilot the number. at the season finale race in 2013 at Homestead. Newman was named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers, and he would be one of the few to win in multiple numbers throughout the 30s. And like I said, Newman was responsible for nearly half of all the starts in this number, and was the last to drive it, so this will for sure be a quick one to touch on. Bud Olson was the first to ever drive the number in 1949, NASCAR's first season at Langhorne. And then David Pearson. Pearson, a NASCAR legend, would make one start in the 39 at the 1962 Daytona 500 for Fox Racing. With there not being a current driver for the 39, when will we see it back on the track? It is just another example of how not many teams are racing numbers in the 30s. And that'll do it for numbers 30 through 39. That was an absolute marathon. If you made it this far, kudos to you. It was certainly more history than I expected, but there were some really cool bits in there that I wouldn't have known otherwise. If y'all wanted me to do this 10 number format again, there had better be a lot of likes and views on this one. As always, I am prone to forgetting drivers. Let me know which drivers of any of these numbers I may have missed. If you haven't seen numbers 1 through 29, the number history playlist will be linked below. Be sure to check them out. We will be back next week with numbers 40 through 42 and a return to normalcy before we hit the petty era 43 through 45 in a couple of weeks. That will for sure be a fun one. If you liked the video, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. It helps a ton and I definitely appreciate it. We're super close to 1,000 and I know that we can get there soon. You guys are incredible. But that'll do it for us here at Dogleg Media. I'm Matt, your host, and you've been watching NASCAR Number History. I'll see you next time.